Eric Dennis, and I'm presenting on the SEAI Home Energy Grants today. Just straight into it, the Home Energy Grants. I suppose, why would you want to upgrade your home? We have a nice kind of picture here of a kind of mock-up of a house, and just kind of shows you where you'll use or lose kind of most of the energy in your home. So we have 30% from your roof, 10% through air infiltration. So it's a big thing kind of now in retrofit and energy upgrades for homes is air tightness and ventilation. So the air infiltration part kind of comes in under that. We've 30% for walls, 10% for doors and windows, and 20% for floors. I suppose why would you want to do it? I suppose there's 4 kind of areas that we've identified through lots of engagement with the public and people who get them done and want to get it done. The first one, I suppose, or one of the important ones, is comfort. So when you upgrade your home, generally it's going to be a lot more comfortable, stabilising kind of temperatures and more even temperatures. Might have talk about it a little bit later on when we look at heat pumps and that sort of stuff. I know when I first was in a home with a heat pump, it's probably back 2017, 2018, so it's long enough ago, and the technology wasn't as common as you'd see now. You see a lot of it in new housing estates now. A lot of homes, or a lot of developers are opting to go with heat pumps at the moment. But the first time I was in the house, we were out visiting, kind of touring around kind of the west of Ireland, visiting about 20 of these homes, and it was probably about halfway through the trip, I'd kind of realised what it was that kind of was different about the houses, and it was like the temperature was pretty much perfect kind of the whole time. It wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it was just nice kind of the whole time. Whereas I suppose traditionally, particularly in Ireland anyway, you're used to putting on the heat when you're cold, and then you're roasting, and then you're turning it off, and hopefully we might have a thermostat that'll maybe regulate that bit for us, or timers and stuff like that that'll kick in and kick out. But it's very much governed by that cycle of hot and cold, whereas like a heat pump kind of works in a very different way, where it's constantly running to keep the house at this like kind of Goldilocks temperature the whole time, whereas just feels nice kind of all the time. But anyway, the comfort part is a huge part of it, and I think that drives a lot of demand for retrofit. Savings as well. Now, to get the savings, you do have to invest, and sometimes substantially. So the savings are definitely something there, or the way people look at it is, let's spend the money on actually upgrading the house rather than actually running the house, and that it should pay itself off over time, which all upgrades will do at various different rates. But I think it is important to kind of at least be upfront around the savings part. Generally come with an investment, an upfront investment as well. Unless there's, the grants do help, and then sometimes there is free energy upgrades as well for eligible homeowners through, it's 7 Department of Social Protection payments that do make people eligible for free energy upgrades. So that's worth considering as well. Maybe not for yourself, but you might know it could be a parent or a relative or a friend or something like that might receive one of those payments. The environment, and of course this is all driven by climate change and targets, and we have targets for 2030, so the environment is a really big one. It mightn't be on these would be ranked in very various orders depending on the person or the individual, but I think they all are all quite important. And whatever it is for you that does get you to do that retrofit or energy upgrade, for whatever reason it is, it's valid. The environment, like I said, the next one is value. I've been working in retrofit and renewable energy for about 10 or 11 years now, and I suppose back 10 or 11 years ago, upgrading your property didn't really have an effect on its resale value. It was still the whole location thing. But now that it's kind of out there and it's a lot more common, and like I said, you'll get a slightly better rate on your mortgage. For instance, if you can hit a B2, you'll get like what's called a green mortgage. It's not a massive reduction, but every bit helps. Like it's probably like a 0.25% kind of reduction in the rate you're going to pay on your mortgage. And it does seem to increase your property value. Will it, and the way I'd kind of look at it is, and come here, I'm not a property expert or auctioneer or estate agent, but like you will see, like if you do put, 50,000 euros into your house, it probably it might cost 70 or 80,000 to do the retrofit, and your grants might be 24, 25. That bit extra that might be 30, 40, 50,000 that you put in, you should see that value increase. In your home, and again, if you look at, and again, this wouldn't normally be something I'd overly consider. I think location when people are buying homes is the most important thing. But again, if you have two houses on the street and they're in around the same kind of money, or one has all this work done already, that's probably going to sell quicker or faster than the other, and probably for a higher price as well. So there is quite a bit of value in getting it done. Like, people like to move into homes that are ready to live in, unless you really like a bit of torture and want to buy a ruin. And we'll talk about that in a while, about the traditional homes pilot and the vacant home scheme and stuff like that. There are programs out there for if you want to buy a fixer-upper. But I think it's fair to say that most people want to buy a home that's ready to just live in and kind of just go. 3, I suppose we've kind of refined kind of the advice around kind of this 3-step approach. So assess, insulate, and add renewables. If you want to retrofit somewhere, you kind of need to have a bit of a plan. If you look at the end picture there's a heat pump. Most homes aren't heat pump ready. If your house was built after 2007, it probably is. But again, okay, there's lots of homes being built now. But again, if you're buying something that's 3 or 4 years old, you're probably not looking at installing a new heating system at the moment. And then there wasn't a lot of stuff built after 2006, and then the building only started kind of back around 2000 and we say 11, kind of 12 at low numbers, and now we're flat out building kind of housing estates and stuff like that around the country. But most homes, like I said, built pre-2006 need something done to them before you'll get the heat pump in. So again, just that planning about that assessment part is really important if you want to get the most out of your retrofit and kind of get it done at reasonable kind of rates and in good time, because one of the things that drives, I suppose, heating system replacement is this time of the year. Like I said, try and get a plumber. You might get a plumber kind of now, give it another couple of weeks when it gets cold. Heating systems start breaking down, and it'll be, you need a new boiler. And at that point, you won't be going for a heat pump, So you kind of need to be like keeping an eye on it. If you're living in a house where your boiler's maybe 15 years or older, you could get like, the house I live in at the minute when we moved in, I think by the time the boiler was replaced, it was about 40 years old. Like, boilers will last, or some boilers will last, good boilers will last quite a long time. Highly inefficient at that rate, but again, you're kind of looking at that. If you see something that's old, if it's 15, 20 years old, you're kind of thinking, right, maybe in 5 years' time we'll have to do the heating, and maybe we can get it ready for a heat pump at that point. It can all be done in one go as well, but that's a different one, and we'll look at the different grants that are there for it. So assess, insulate, add renewables. So we'll have a look at the assess part. There's a couple of ways around it. Do you have to get a building energy rating? You mightn't if you know somebody who's kind of knows kind of buildings and good at kind of construction technology, kind of knows their stuff. But most people, I suppose, don't or mightn't have access to that person, or mightn't necessarily have a background in this. So a building energy rating you're getting for the value for what you get with a building energy rating, you're going to get somebody out who knows how to assess houses, knows how to kind of run them through the software and give you recommendations on what you need. And we'll be able to show you where you are now and where you could be, and the report that comes with that has kind of like interventions that will show you, kind of like get you up and rate them on cost and stuff like that. We'll have a look at an example of a cert now in a second. There's also another one called the home energy assessment, and if you're going to do your house up in one kind of fell swoop through what's called like the one-stop shop service or something like that, you do need a home energy assessment. Now they're a little bit more in-depth, and again, you will get a BER out of it, but it's kind of like a BER plus. Now the cost they could be anything from maybe 5 to 6, 7, 800 euros, but there's a grant of 350 from SEAI towards that. Again, that's one where you're going for like a big project. You're going to be getting yourself up to a B2 in one go. Some people even move out of their home for a couple of months to get this done. Like, so again, that investment, you can see like it's a higher price, but that investment is worth it because it's part of this like a far bigger project. That's a kind of traditional BER cert. They still look like that. You can see here the C2 kind of like, again, which is quite a good rating actually. You kind of want it up in the Bs. A B2 is the kind of standard which we've set for kind of retrofits, and yeah, anything from there up is really very good. And like I said, if you're in a house built pre-2006 and you're in the C's, even the high D is like not a bad rating. It's kind of like older houses, like when you get to houses built in the 70s, 80s, 70s, 60s, you're way down kind of in the E's, F's and G's, and it doesn't get much worse than the G, unfortunately, but there'll be a lot of homes kind of around that would be at that level, where they might be built 1960, mightn't have been insulated or all insulated since, suspended timber floors and that sort of thing. So again, that's your typical BER cert. Again, there's not, the grant support. When you are getting a BER done as part of a grant, you do get €50 contribution to it. You're going to pay probably 250, 300 quid for a BER. It's kind of where the rates are at the moment. But again, they do fluctuate, and the type of home that is getting done will matter as well. So if it's a big, massive house that's really complicated, it could be a little bit more expensive. If it's like a one-bedroom apartment, it could be a little bit cheaper. This is kind of like the newer type of BER, so you can see here actually on this side it'll have roof walls. It's kind of difficult to read there, but I'm kind of familiar enough with them. That's all the different kind of elements of the home, and then you see the column on the left with some of the red squares. That's what it is now, and then the one on the right is the potential. So I was telling you, you're here now, and this is where you could get it to with a attic upgrade or a wall insulation upgrade or something like that. So again, the new formats after 2021, you might actually already have one. If you've rented or bought your house in the last 10 years, it should have one, and you can find it on the National Register. So even when I'm looking for a BER, if I have an MPRN, I just Google National BER Register and click the kind of link that returns. It'll bring you in. It'll have a little interface that'll ask you either for the BER number or the MPRN. And your MPRN is your meter point reference number, which is on the top right hand corner of your electricity bill. I love people nodding when I say that, because I'm kind of going, yeah, like years ago, yeah, most people don't know it, but I suppose we're used to kind of ringing around, swapping electricity kind of now, and like if you're doing that, you'll know what your MPRN is, but it's the 11-digit number at the top right hand.
I never knew you could get it. Like, we bought our house in 2021, so...
2021, yeah, there should be one there, yeah. So if you get your MPRN, pop it into the National BER Register, it should pop it out. You get your BER and you get an advisory report then as a separate document to that, yeah. The home energy assessment, again, that's for the one-stop shop one, and the grant there is 350. We've kind of covered a lot of this one already, so I'm going to kind of move on from there. The next one is insulation. So get in. SEAI, we recommend like a fabric first approach. So essentially it's, you're consuming all this energy and kind of heating a building and stuff like that. Kind of let's keep it in the building, and kind of retain as much of it as you can first. So the next step is insulate. So again, things like attic insulation, wall insulation, like all those measures are available. You can see there that we offer insulation grants ranging from 1,500 for an attic to 8,000 for external wall insulation. They're both on, I think, detached homes, or at least the 8,000 is for external wall insulation on a detached home. So there's various grants, and actually we have a table just over there in between the Sustainable Energy Community tables with all the leaflets and information you'll need and prices of grants and stuff, or values of grants and all there for you. The final one then is to add renewables. So in the suite of renewables that we have for SEAI, there's heat pump systems, solar PV, and solar thermal systems. So the last one there, solar thermals, kind of, it's slightly out of favour at the moment. I suppose some of us in the industry feel like that it will have its day again, kind of once everyone has their homes retrofitted and their solar PV installed. that actually at that point heating hot water will be probably one of the biggest kind of expenses that we have in our home. So again, the solar thermal may have a bit of a resurgence or come back at that point. But I suppose for now anyway, kind of like these are, this is kind of where we're at. And the gold standard, I suppose, for heating at the moment is going the heat pump route. Again, it's really important that the house is airtight, it's insulated before you put those in. Once you go airtight and insulation, you need to make sure that you have some form of, good ventilation as well, so indoor air quality. Things like the things that are emerging actually now that we are insulating our homes and making them airtight. There's things like, actually overheating in the summer and indoor air quality are the kind of emerging things from that. So there are things to consider as well as part of retrofits. And to be fair to contractors out there doing them, most of them, if you get to a certain amount of air tightness, they will be recommending you go for like a mechanical ventilation system of some form anyway. But like lots of great grants there for that. There's three main streams in terms of the grants. So there's the fully funded energy upgrades. So I think we might have had one, possibly two of those already here today. So I'm kind of going, if I can do an event like this and find one person that's eligible for this, I'm consider it a good day's work. So it's for qualifying homeowners. It's there's 7 social protection payments, 2 of which aren't means tested. So I think that's a really important thing to always throw out at events, where and the ones that aren't means tested are like the main one that actually makes people eligible for this is if you're in receipt of fuel allowance in the winter time. So the fuel allowance is kicking in around now. I think at the moment it's about a €30 payment per week, in addition to people's pensions and other bits that they get from the state in retirement, that allows them to buy extra fuel when it's cold during the winter. The non means tested payments are domiciliary care allowance. So you may have somebody in the household who's receiving domiciliary care allowance. So it's like they may have some additional needs, and you get a payment for that. Or there's carers allowance. So if you receive carers allowance and you live in the same property as the person you're caring for, you're also eligible for. Well, it's actually, I think it's that. If I'm not sure which person is actually eligible for it, but I'm going to go. The home is eligible for it. So again, that's the free one there. It's fully funded. Somebody goes out, does a survey. I think generally now pre-BER, they get the works done. Post-BER, there's lots of work gets done on it. Not every home is suitable for it, but most houses will get something on it. The next one here is the one-stop shop service, and this is kind of your just all done in one go work. So again, it's part funded by SEAI. There's multiple energy upgrades. It actually has the largest suite of eligible upgrades, so you can get the most grant through that program. There's a lot of grants through this, and it's fully funded. So I'm kind of going, in terms of the publicly available one, that's the one with the most eligible measures. They pay you only pay for the work after the balance after the grant amount is deducted by the one-stop shop provider. You have to get to a B2, and the homes must be built and occupied before 2011. And I think that's important as well. The final one there, individual energy upgrades. Smaller suite of grant measures, but again, like this is one that's kind of, more people will be accessible to. It's a kind of a pick and mix or mix and match approach. There's not as many things to choose from, but you still can get attic insulation, wall insulation, 3 types of wall insulation. You can only get a grant for one, but there are 3 different types because every house will be slightly different. And your solar is in there, your heat pumps, heating controls, solar thermal, solar PV are in there. Just to point out there, because I think you did say 2011, was it? Or was your home 2011? Or?
No, our home was 1978.
Oh, 78, yeah, but got it. Yeah, 2021, sorry, yeah. Sorry, so it was the 2021 that flagged with me then. So it's like the insulation is for homes built and occupied pre-2011. Heat pumps and renewables are pre-2021. So again, like once your home was built and occupied before those threshold dates, you can apply for the various grants. So this is a bit of a visual here now. I'm kind of going, because of the time here, I'm going to kind of move on, but like this just shows you what's eligible on each of the programs. But if you are interested, there's loads of literature over there that you can take away with you kind of on it, and also the amount of grant you can get for it. So there's 3 different kind of streams, and then when you look at there's 4 different what's called archetypes. So there's like an apartment and mid-terrace, semi-D, detached, kind of like it's different, different types of property, and the values are different. So there's a bit of working out on it, like, but it's straightforward enough if you want to come over afterwards. Something just to mention here, and is the vacant and derelict homes refurbishment grant. And this is something, okay, so if your house looks like this, I kind of wonder, you have a house that looks like this, you probably are eligible for the likes of this. That's probably an extreme example. The vacant homes are homes that haven't been lived in for 2 years. The derelict ones are ones that are derelict or either on a register with your local authority, or you have a structural engineer come in and they condemn the house, or they say, well, if you couldn't live here because it's structurally not sound or for whatever reason. And if it's a vacant home, you're eligible for €50,000 funding from the local authority or through the local authority, and if it's derelict, you get an additional 20. So actually 70,000 potential there for that. There's other stuff around the heritage officers and that department in the council as well, where there's some other funding as well that could be possible there. But something that has come from that, and there is homes around the town here, for instance, around Strand Street, the older houses on Strand Street, if they were vacant for a bit of time and built before, and particularly this one here, traditional homes are homes built before 1940. So again, like old properties there on Church Street, Strand Street, that type of home, or even cottages in the countryside or something built pre-1940 would be eligible for, would probably be, or may be eligible for this, but they might also be eligible for this, and this is called the Traditional Homes Pilot that SEAI have launched probably about less than a year ago, or around a year ago, I'd say. So we've about 250,000 traditional homes in the country. That means they're built with solid brickwork or stonework, or maybe even clay or cob, which is kind of a mixture of clay and straw and stuff like that. So again, if you've that type of home, again, we've literature over there, and there's a scheme for that. What they allow kind of through that program is you to go through the one-stop shop program, but you don't have to hit all the technical sort of milestones and kind of bars kind of there. Like in terms of you're trying to insulate like a clay walled house, you don't use the same materials as you would for like a modern home, and you're certainly, it's going to be very difficult to reach the U values and technical requirements of a wall for a modern building with the type of materials you'd use. So again, there's lots of leeway there. You do have to have a traditional homes kind of professional on board for the project. But again, if that does mean anything to anybody, more than happy to have a conversation about it afterwards. This one here, and these are August 2023. We report these slightly different now. These are average costs and average grants, where I suppose they do the median now, which is kind of like if there's 80,000, we do like the one that's in the middle kind of like now rather than the average. But these are from 2023, and this is kind of like the average cost of the works in an apartment would be 43,000, we'll say. Average grant would be about 14, and then the average cost of the home would be about 28. And you see that there for semi-D, mid-terrace, and then detached house. So again, nice contribution there. You can kind of see there on the detached, it's about a third, it's probably over a third there, to be fair. Here, probably again over a third, over a third, over a third. So you're kind of going like, the grants were always kind of like pitched at that around 30% funding, between 30 and 35% funding on various programs. Like, so that's your kind of one-stop shop service average grant, and they've kind of maintained that there. So, that's your averages. Again, it depends on the house. This is like a detached house, that's probably going to be maybe 2,500 square foot. You could have a detached house that's a bungalow and it's 1,200 square foot. Like the cost of both are going to be a lot different, So again, the grant mightn't go as far in some homes, and it might go further in smaller homes. The last one, I didn't have it there. I thought I had it in, but is of course the solar PV grant, and we've loads of solar providers around here today. At the moment, it's €1,800 for your, if you get the largest system possible. at the moment, it's reducing €300 every year. I wouldn't be panicking too much. Kind of why? I suppose when they brought in the feed-in tariff, so now when you got the solar grant before, any electricity that went back onto the grid, you didn't get paid for it. So now when it goes back onto the grid, you do get paid for it, but they weren't. I think they weren't supposed to actually keep the two going at the same time. But we have here, and instead of just pulling the grant, they're reducing it by 300 years and letting it sort of phase out that way, just to maybe not shock the market too much. Or I'm not actually sure the reason for it, but again, it is reducing over time. But it'll probably go down. I don't think they've announced it, but it will probably go down another 300 this December. And the same kind of as the years go by. I think they've committed to 2028 on that, but again, it might continue for another little bit. So thanks a million for your time. If you need any more info or anything, we're over there for the rest of the day. Thank you.